Hello and welcome to Pearl Magazine's first show of the new year. Tonight we take a look at Hong Kong's economic and property market outlook for 2024 after last year's reopening from COVID delivered much less than expected. I spoke with Port Shelter CEO Richard Harris to get his take on the economy and analyst Patrick Wong to see what's in store for Hong Kong's property market this year. Richard, Hong Kong was the worst performing market in 2023. Do you expect that to continue this year?
I think the answer is no. And one reason is because we have been one of the worst performing markets, and what goes down often comes up. Obviously, Hong Kong has suffered a lot because of the Chinese economy has been quite slow, has slowed down a lot. And that actually means that Hong Kong often does worse. Hong Kong's like an option on China. It does worse when China does worse. It does better when China does better. The government has already put a lot of stimulus into the market, and if China does better, then Hong Kong should do even better. So that's the reason for my slightly more bullishness next year than this.
Do you expect to see more multinationals coming back to Hong Kong, or do you expect to see more mainland China companies setting up offices here?
China, I think, will always outpace foreign companies because China's right on our doorstep. You know, that's just a natural thing. But I think we are seeing foreign companies come back. But I don't think the big companies have ever really left. They've just reduced their footprint a bit, and they'll increase their footprint a bit. And all of this should have a leveraged impact on the Hong Kong economy next year.
So Patrick, how do you think the office market is going to do this year?
For 2024, we see the rents may also go down further. From this point, it could be going down about 6% from end of 2023. We see the rents, if for landlord's perspective, they still need to adjust a little bit further down to attract more tenants. Especially when we see the vacancy rate, Hong Kong overall is about 15%. So that is also have a really high level over the past 2 decades. The interest costs keep going up over the past 2 years. Even we may see some signal potentially this year is the rate may cut a little bit. Still, it's tough, right, for all the tenants, right? They think about, right, if they want to expand, they need to have a more better picture about how they can use the expenses for different things. Financial service, for example, right? We also see some consolidation, right? And there is several reasons, right? One is about some structural changes of the pandemic, and we see more people working from home or have become a hybrid working mode, right? So this also triggers some corporates. They need to offer more flexibility. But in the meantime, they also need to think about how they can make those staff become more happy. Right. So that's why for this time we will see that for the office space demand will not be as strong as before.
Is there also a lot of supply on the market?
Yeah, that's true. We see some of the new supply coming in. So like we see in Central, for example, we see like the Henderson, Cheung Kong Center 2 is coming. And so they need some time to capture all the occupancy. We also still see some of the supply they completed past couple of years still not really fully occupied.
Like for example?
For example, we see like in Causeway Bay, for example, we see like Swire. I think they have a 2 Taikoo Place, still need to take more time to fill up the space. We also see other like in Kowloon East, we also see lots of buildings already completed, but is still not really fully occupied.
Given that there's just a few landlords, are they able to control the price to a certain extent?
They have a relatively strong bargaining power still when we compare with other markets. Because in Hong Kong, we see some major landlords here already, right? They're taking up most of the space. So they become more have a stronger bargaining power, right? When doing the negotiation for the rental time. So they are relatively strong for the cash flow, so they are not really rushed to cut the rents aggressively to fill up the space. They are okay to absorb a little bit the vacancy at this point. So even the vacancy may be 10% or even 20%, they are still fine.
Hong Kong has dropped out of the top 5 IPO markets. Does that affect its standing as an international financial hub?
I think the issue with IPOs is maybe a little bit overblown because the economy isn't just the stock market. It isn't just IPOs in the stock market. It's how companies are doing. Are they making money? Is there some basis to the fact that they're making money, that there's real valuations? Is the economy in China recovering? And that's helping companies in Hong Kong.
What role will Hong Kong play in the geopolitics between the US and China?
If you look at Hong Kong's history, we've always been what they called an entrepot. We've been a gateway to China. Something like 25%, I think, of the Hong Kong economy is based on logistics anyway, goods moving in and out. So I think that's likely to continue. I think the trade between the US and China will certainly continue, whatever the rhetoric is on both sides, because both sides want that as very much the sort of maybe the hub in between the two places. But in terms of trade, not in terms of necessarily geopolitics or anything like that. Once again, Hong Kong is purely about economics.
So with the US and China, its geopolitics is very much different from actually the trade between the two?
And there are a lot of issues on which the US and China fundamentally disagree. I think the issue is the two economies are still very much complementary. There's still a great deal of trade between the two. That's likely to continue. They're the two biggest economies in the world, so that's not going to stop. But equally so, the two are now starting to feel that, well, we are complementary, but we don't have to be so dependent on each other. So we are seeing the US pull back in terms of semiconductors. We are seeing China put a lot of research into doing their own semiconductors. And these kind of almost on the edge of military issues, I think that will get very blurred.
What impact do you think the Top Talent Pass scheme will have on Hong Kong's economy?
We see the population inflow now, right, for Hong Kong. So his overall can support the leasing market for the housing. And for the residential market outlook, I think for the rental perspective, last year already we see the rent is going up more than 5%. So we also see that could happen in 2 to 4, another 5 to 10% increase.
For residential property, are we going to continue to see prices go down?
The price could also keep falling, I think, from this point.
By how much?
By about 5 to 10% for 2 to 4. We could see some pent-up demand coming back. And then potentially in second half, we see the mortgage rate really peak and also coming down a little bit based on what we see from the US Federal Reserve really cutting the rates. Part of the reason also about the property market have a problem in China, so that's why for Hong Kong also being affected. So it is some of the reason across the board that means the residential sales for the new projects is slowing quite a lot. Now it's basically almost a 20 years high level for the inventory for the developers. So they take some time to absorb.
And how do you expect the retail market to perform?
We can feel about that over the past year after the pandemic, we see more and more visitors coming back, right? So more visitors coming back also means that for the retail perspective, we see the rents is more resilient, and we also see the demand is coming back to support the market.
So how much of a rise do you expect to see in 2024?
So I think the retail rents, we could see the 5% growth in 2 to 4 for the rents, and that is also quite a good numbers, right? Compared with past couple of years before the pandemic, I think it's also since 3-4 years ago the rents is keep coming down already. But potentially, I think it's also reach a bottom, and then we could see some support from the tourist arrivals, and also if the interest rate cut really happen for later this year, they will also encourage some local spending and then support the overall market.
Well, I think we're still recovering from COVID, and we're starting to see some quite nice figures in terms of how the airlines are doing. I think Cathay Pacific carried 1.6 million passengers last month. I mean, that's a lot of people. So all of these things are beginning to pick up, and we're going to see that carry on in the new year.
So both of you are saying that actually Hong Kong's economy is dependent on China's economy. Hong Kong's property market is also dependent on China's property market in many ways.
I think the challenge, of course, now is the China market is also, we see the prices is coming down, and also is no longer as bullish as before, right? So it also have affecting the Hong Kong, I think some of the property market sentiment, right? And also some potential buyers from mainland China, they may also be more cautious to buy in Hong Kong for now. That's why I think for the overall market, right, in Hong Kong, we also need to see the China market can recover. If that happens in 2024, that will also support the demand for the home sales in Hong Kong.
But I do think the Chinese will look to stimulate the economy, and if they do look to stimulate the economy, that'll bring back some life into the stock markets, into the property markets, some more confidence into people. The stock markets will react early. And as I said, I think Hong Kong will probably do better than China in that situation because Hong Kong's really an option on what happens in the Chinese economy.
What kind of big bazooka stimulus actions do you think could be taken? Do you think they would ever do something as drastic as QE, as quantitative easing?
Yes, I think that there is a possibility they'll do that. The problem with QE is it makes rich people richer. And I think the authorities are very concerned that that doesn't happen. Now, you can deal with that through taxation system. You can deal with that through regulation. There are all sorts of ways of dealing with it. And it comes down to the law of unintended consequences. You know, it's all right to put money into the economy, but what you want is to build confidence. You don't actually want to make rich people richer. That's the delicate balance. And I think the Chinese authorities are really looking at how to do that best.
Last word on the economy?
When we compare Hong Kong versus other regional market, like Singapore or the others, Hong Kong, I think the location is still very good, right? It's still a prime location to attract the corporate to set up the business, especially if they want to integrate more business with the Greater Bay Area, the mainland China. They're still very convenient. So as an international city perspective, I think for Hong Kong, the long-term perspective, I think still really solid, right, to support the overall market.
It is high time for the Chinese economy to turn around. It is likely that'll happen due to some events like stimulating the market with liquidity, this kind of thing. And I think that that's likely to happen. So I think the markets will move before the economy, as they always do. And I rather suspect that we might see something happening maybe in the early part of this year.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Patrick. When we come back, newcomers to Hong Kong to help solve our talent shortage. Stay with us. Welcome back to Pearl Magazine. The Top Talent Pass scheme was approved earlier last year to address a reported manpower shortage in Hong Kong by allowing talents from the mainland to seek jobs in the city. So far, over 40,000 applications have been approved. Pearl Magazine finds out what those who have moved here are looking forward to. Rock, who lives in Shenzhen, was approved for the Top Talent Pass scheme 3 months ago. And today he's come to Hong Kong specifically to visit a show flat.
这边的话是不是可以看到港島咧？唔係，港島嗰邊咧，因為喺呢個方向。
Rock says he is looking for a job now and plans to officially move here in February or March next year. So he's interested in buying an apartment in Hong Kong.
The rent in Hong Kong is quite expensive. Instead of paying the landlord, I can afford the down payment of a unit. So why not use it as a savings? The future appreciation may be 10 to 20%. I think this expectation can be achieved. The property price may not rise sharply, but I don't think it will go down any further.
Rock says that when he first comes to Hong Kong, he will live alone and feels that a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment will be enough for him.
很大，这个楼高非常的。现在大陆的话，楼层高不会这么高。
My impression has changed a bit. Although everyone thinks that apartments in Hong Kong are relatively small, I found that the show flat I just visited has maximized the use of space, which I really like. At this stage, a one-bedroom apartment is more suitable for me. But considering that my parents may move in too, one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments are both goals for me.
This year's policy address announced a stamp duty suspension arrangement for incoming talents acquiring residential properties, allowing them to pay stamp duty using the exemption first and tax later method, which is in line with Hong Kong permanent residents who are first-time buyers. After viewing the flats, Rock sits down with a real estate agent to do the math and see what he can afford. The stamp duty suspension has been in place for more than a month, and authorities have received at least 183 applications. Some real estate agents say that the property market has since become more prosperous.
The mainland customers often have issue with the 30% stamp duty. The arrangement at least helped him get through the first hurdle. After the policy address, the number of deals for previously launched properties increased sharply. In Kai Tak district, around 40 to 50% of the buyers are those incoming talents.
这些奖学金呢，也有一些是直接把现金发到去家长交学费的这个户口。
It's Saturday, and this school is holding a briefing session specifically for incoming talents, attracting about 200 parents.
我们会3月18号就公布这个取录结果，然后就安排同学来注册。
The birth rate in Hong Kong is continuing to drop. Many schools have expressed difficulty in enrolling students over the past few years. But this year, enrollment has improved. For instance, this school has 165 primary 1 admission places and has so far attracted more than 1,000 applications. For primary and secondary school transfer applications, the total number is nearly 4,000. The school says that many of the applicants are from those incoming talent families.
The quality of the students who apply for our school during the period is very high. The incoming talents have relatively high academic qualifications and attach great importance to the children's studies. Therefore, we hope to seize the opportunity and let the parents learn more about our school.
我是5年级的张史金。好的，那现在先请各位跟着我来这边先参观。
After the briefing session, the school holds a tour where students show parents around the campus. The principal says the reason so many talents are attracted to Hong Kong is that those with children can send them to school here, and the opportunity to then enter local universities or, if they like, choose to study anywhere in the world.
For parents from the mainland, they feel that if their kids go to school in Hong Kong, they can take the DSE test to apply for both local and overseas universities, or they can apply for mainland universities with lower grades. Mainland schools actually have very high academic requirements, but for Hong Kong permanent residents, through the DSE system, it will be relatively easy.
An organization that specializes in assisting applicants for the Top Talent Pass scheme says that as of October, about 43,000 applications have been approved, all of who will support various industries.
I saw that more than 200 parents were here today, which reflects that there is a huge demand from children of incoming talents to study in Hong Kong. So I believe that the scheme will actually create a new economic ecology and develop the diversity of Hong Kong. These financial contributions also have benefits.
The Top Talent Pass scheme is divided into 3 categories, A, B, and C. Category A requires an annual salary of $2.5 million or above. Category B requires graduates from one of the 184 qualified universities and 3 years of work experience. And Category C requires graduates from a qualified university who've graduated within the last 3 years. Different from previous talent schemes, the Top Talent Pass scheme allows applicants to start job hunting after arriving in Hong Kong.
The mission of the mainland professional scheme or the general employment program requires applicants to find jobs first, and their employers need to prove that they cannot find such talents in Hong Kong. It is a selective method. Now it is a threshold system which is very clear and simple. Therefore, the approval process is faster and the number of approved applicants is big too.
你交咗功課未啊，燕？
未，我而家喺度做緊。
Lexi Lai, who comes from Guangdong, has dreamed of being a teacher since she was a child. She came to Hong Kong after graduating from university in May this year through the Top Talent Pass scheme. Now she teaches mathematics to children at a tutoring center.
咁7減2等於？哇，非常好喎！
The minimum requirement for school teachers in the mainland is a master's degree. Currently, I have not obtained these qualifications, so I'm working as a tutor in Hong Kong for the time being.
But why didn't you consider it, studying for master's degree or graduate school?
Yes, but I didn't pass. The direct reason is that I didn't pass the exam.
She says that even if she had the opportunity, she has no plans to return to the mainland to work. Her plan is to stay in Hong Kong for 7 years.
The most important thing is to get the Hong Kong PR identity, which may allow me to enjoy the benefits. It will be better for my family because they are not young. If they move to Hong Kong, they can benefit from the healthcare system. I didn't think much of self-development. It's more about my family.
3乘15等于45公里。
刚刚讲的非常的熟练，但是呢，语速这一块的话，咱们可能还得再注意一下。
Not only the tutors, but also the principal of this tutoring center is from the mainland. Jiang Xiaofeng came to Hong Kong through the Top Talent Pass scheme as well. He says that the center will hold recruitment activities in the mainland in the future and more systematically recruit employees to come to Hong Kong.
We know that the advantages of educational resources are different in various regions. For example, in the mainland, we believe that its mathematics education is very advanced. So through the Top Talent Pass scheme, we hope to introduce more outstanding mathematics talents from the mainland to Hong Kong.
That's our show for this week. Join us on Pearl Magazine, same time next week. Bye for now.